Can you teach an old dog new tricks? I'm going to give you a stat. Digital has exploded, accounting for 40% of total business across hospitality, with some restaurants processing 80 to 90% of their orders through online experiences. The fact is, online ordering automates, upsells, increases order accuracy, builds loyalty, and for the most part is frictionless. But the digital experience can have a steep learning curve for restaurateurs. In a chaotic kitchen with tickets coming in, the drive-through buzzing, guests in-house, and employees to manage, how does an operator find the time to learn new technology? In this episode of the Restaurant Growth Show podcast, we're going to flatten the learning curve to help you adopt new technologies and grow your business. This is episode lucky number 13. Let's grow. Gordon, and this is the Restaurant Growth Show podcast, where we talk about how restaurants can use technology to grow their business. We've got a lot to talk about in this episode, but first, let's introduce our guest. Jose Albis is a co-founder and chief growth officer at Moduurn with more than 25 years of online marketing experience. Jose has successfully founded and operated companies in software and hospitality. Lastly, who am I? My name is Gordon. I'm your host. I run a digital marketing program called 90 Days to Success, where I teach restaurateurs how to sell their food online. Jose, how are you doing today?
Great. A little festive, a little, looking forward to some rest and family time. How about you?
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you the hard-hitting brass tacks question. Have you finished your Christmas shopping?
Of course not.
I have a tradition. Each year. I wait till the 23rd or the 24th because I, like a lot of guys out there, I operate under pressure much better, because if I go out and I do my shopping early, I just end up buying a whole bunch of crap for myself. So in order to save money, I like it when the pressure's on. So I'll go down on the 23rd or the 24th. A lot of the time it's the 24th, and I'll just bang out my Christmas shopping and get everybody done. Right? Yeah. You get a stocking stuffer, you get a nice main present. That's kind of been my tradition, my own Christmas tradition for a very long time. So let's jump into this. We were lucky enough to have Jay Ashton from the SVK network on the show last week. He dropped quite a few knowledge bombs on us. We had to take some time to digest and react to his point of view. So I'm going to play a clip here, and then we're going to talk about what we think he meant and just sort of the sentiment.
I have a new philosophy with restaurateurs, and it's come from our shows over the last few years, is that restaurateurs can handle two things, and that's it. When you give them something to do, you throw a third in there, they forget the two, and then you're just back to none, because they'll forget the third at the same time. So if we can just help restaurants with two things first, you can add a million of them, but that's all they can handle with what their worlds are like nowadays, is two things.
So obviously, coming from an online ordering platform, there's a lot to learn and there's a lot of knowledge to share. Does Jay's point about only sharing two things, does that sort of bottleneck the teachings that, say, a company like Moduurn can share with an organization?
I don't think it's about bottlenecking. It's about, and I think there's a part where he shares something else, that it's about having them prioritize what is it that matters most, right? I think that there is a huge amount of knowledge that, as you know, in the 90 Days to Success, we impart when we're coaching them, that it can be overwhelming very easily, right? We've designed to be very short meetings for that same reason, but we know that sometimes the tasks don't get done, and I think that it may be something to continue looking into, the two tasks only, as a way to maybe achieving a better rate of fulfillment of those commitments that we get them. So I don't think it's a bottleneck. It's more of it's human nature. It's the attention. It's and to make it easy for them. I think I when he said that, I was like, oh my God, that explains so much. Of how many times there's a task to be done, or two or three, and there's a threshold for attention and to commit to something, two is quite manageable. If you think about it, you're very busy, and you want me to give you access to one thing, and then you want me to do a post about something, and then I need to also do the menu update or whatever. It can get really, really complicated.
Edit, order level modifiers, make sure that your menu items all have descriptions. What are you doing with social media? What are you doing with Google Ads? What are you doing with print marketing and the QR codes? There's so many things that I know that I jump into when I'm showing restaurateurs how to market their food online, that when Jay said that, I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm probably overwhelming, our client,
Mhm.
at least a little bit. And maybe they're being polite and saying, yo, they're not saying, hey, hold up, like this is too much. And because a lot of the time I found that they're not necessarily checking off all of those items in the checklist, because I give them, 5, 6, 7. And when Jay said that again, I think that that's already got my wheels turning in terms of, let's pare down what it is that we recommend that they do, or maybe the order in which they do it, so that they can knock a couple of things off and feel like they're making progress, instead of,
Right.
just a drop in the bucket. Well, you did one thing, but now we've got 50 other tasks for you to do if you want to be successful, right? That's sort of
Mhm.
what I took away from Jay's
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah, same. I think that also the he talks about something else. I can't remember. I think it's there or something like that, where he showed us like a menu of content, and had all the
Sure.
possibilities.
Yeah. Don't get ahead of yourself, Jose. We're going to get to the stir
Oh, okay.
success through innovative resources. But yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
And I think that that maybe a possibility is, like, if you have the checklist, maybe before confirming what they're going to do, you can share with them and be like, what could you take on for this week until we meet the next time, and then just leave them with those two things, right?
So what I want to do is I want to put that out to the restaurateurs out there.
Correct.
What do you think you could handle? What do you think that you
Mhm.
could you take on many tasks at once? Is I guess it comes down to the individual too, because some are very technologically inclined and they love this stuff and they dig right in, and they're like, bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. And then there are some where it's like, okay, I don't have my login info, and
Correct.
we spend 45 minutes trying to find their WordPress login credentials. And that's just it. There's a wide range of comfort levels when it comes to adopting new technology and learning these new things. Okay, so I'm going to play the second clip here. One sec.
We created a program at Cisco, 14 years ago, and it was called STIR, which stood for Success Through Innovative Resources. But
Mhm.
each one's a course that we would teach a restaurant, and they got to select the bazillions of courses we had. But we created a program where people could come in and pick what they wanted to. And this was a shift in allowing the customer at the time to actually drive the direction of the help that they needed. And I think this happens a lot where you get companies thinking that they have a better idea where they need to tell the customer to go. But in a customer centric model or in a customer driven model, you need to give them the steering wheel, right? So that's what we did.
So this one hit home for me because, again, from a coaching standpoint, from sitting down with, whether it's online or in person, sitting down and going, this is what you need to do, this is how you need to do it, and this is what the results should look like. And what Jay is saying is like, let's just pump the brakes a little bit and let the merchant steer the conversation. And again, I guess it comes back to comfort level, right? Where is their experience level at, and then we can start there. So I'm definitely guilty of that. What do you think?
And I think I mean, you just pointed out to something very, very, very important, especially in coaching. Coaches will tell you that it is the client who drives the conversation, right? And that is that difference between consulting and coaching. So if incorporating more coaching where they maybe you share a whole bunch of things, and then if they have the options of like to have them right in front of them, they may be able to see, you know what, this is the part that actually I think it will be I can get done. It will be helpful. There will be progress, right? So when he showed me that, when he showed, I think in the reaction in that show was like after, well, just mind blowing.
Yeah, it is a light bulb, another light bulb moment for me. And the STIR program, Success Through Innovative Resources, that was launched 12 years ago, I think he said in the video. And
Yeah.
I definitely think that it's a place that I want to get to, where we have a program and they can pick and choose, and I do that to a certain extent. I'm like, what, I will ask, what would you like to focus on today after we've gone through the high level audit that I'll do? Where would you like to focus on today? Where do you think, the lowest hanging fruit is in particular? And I don't know, the feedback that I sort of get is I still need to lead that, because they're like, well, I don't know, you're the expert. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go into email. Let's go into social.
I think that there's definitely a development of new tools and things that can support them. I think that, I mean, if we always consider that, like my favorite piece that he said was the customer centric, right? And it's like, how do we know that we're actually customer centric? Because you could make it a statement, and how do you verify that you are actually being customer centric? Because we get into things and we forget that we may not be.
Exactly. I think that one thing that has just come to me now is that a recorded, preloaded course material absolutely would not work with what we do. And I think especially because of such a wide range of experience and comfort level with certain types of technology, and the fact that technology is moving so quickly. I mean, we haven't even talked about, Chat GPT and AI and how that's basically just changed the entire game. We will do an episode on that, no doubt. But there are so many preloaded courses where it's recorded and boxed learning, where they go through a PDF or whatever that may be. I just don't think that is applicable with hospitality, and especially online ordering. I mean, could you imagine trying to go through a pre-recorded YouTube tutorial on loyalty programs and incorporating that into your ecosystem as a restaurateur? Could you imagine? Like, what if they had a question? It's just flat out not A, B, C, D. And I'm not saying that it's completely so complicated, but there's just a lot of moving parts that a lot of the time, that's one of the advantages of what we do, is that it's so custom to each organization.
Funny that you mentioned that. I was just talking to Alex and he was like, oh, Sales Navigator and LinkedIn. Is there a course or something I could take? And I'm like, yeah, they're right there. And he's like, no. No, not self-learn. I need to talk to someone. I need someone to talk to me back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sometimes we forget that we are very comfortable navigating the internet, finding the materials that we need quickly and efficiently, whereas someone else may not have that comfort level. And sometimes we're just living in a little bit of a bubble, and we need to put, like Jay says, put ourselves in the merchant's shoes. And I think, again, bringing it back to what he was talking about, is let them lead the conversation and let them tell us what they need from us.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So this next clip is kind of contradictory to what we were talking about earlier on in the show, but just goes to show how much there is to learn, A, B, how many resources there are out there, and C, all another thing that restaurateurs want to learn and would like to learn. Well, let this clip go.
You had this inflation calculator.
Yeah. A lot of the times we get anxious when we hear inflation. We do some pretty crazy stuff out there because sometimes it does need to be kind of crazy within the pricing that you're going to have to do or adjusting to account for inflation. But it allows us to look at creative ways. And I think that's when I look at a calculator like we had on the show where we're playing around with ideas. And it shows also the complexity of inflation, of what you need to do. So it's not just throw a dollar in everything and I'm good. Not necessarily.
Amazing. I watched that episode and it was so good.
Right. So just for the listeners out there, the SVK network put together this inflation calculator where you just input, the cost of your goods, and it will, and the average inflation rate at the time. So it's very fluid, and it's a very useful tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a link to that resource for merchants as well. But again, another snapshot when we're coming and talking about their marketing and their advertising and their print marketing and their online and all of these things, they're also trying to consider cost of everything, right? Inflation, all of these moving parts. And so their bandwidth, let me put it that way, their bandwidth for taking on all of these additional things that we're talking about may not necessarily be there. And basically this is an empathy show. Episode 13 is about empathy for what restaurateurs are going through. Jose, maybe you can talk a little bit more about what value you saw in that inflation calculator and that episode in particular.
That calculator and the way that the show was really good, really well, the way everything was shared, the examples, but it just simplifies the way that actually you should go around when there's inflation. And he just said it, and we've heard it from many engineers at Moduurn where they've said like, oh yeah, recently it's been like 50 cents, $1, everything up. And what they talk about in the show is that doesn't even make sense from an operational point of view. It doesn't make sense because each item has different margins for you. And from the pricing and perception of the consumer also doesn't make sense because you're missing out on a huge opportunity, which is what they were saying. For example, so I have the Kobe beef, right? And it turns out that margin is like, let's say, to throw a number there, 5%. But the margins in pop are like 60%. So what they were saying is like, if you increase the price of the pop, and the numbers that you're selling throughout the
volume, right? Yeah,
volumes of each of these items. So instead of putting that extra dollar to the Kobe that it's already expensive and people are going to be like just sensitive to it, you actually do it on the pop. People see it like it was nothing, and in that same order you're making the extra $1.50 instead of the 50 cents or the buck in the beef, much more easy for the consumer as well. So it doesn't have the impact on pricing and the perception of the brand, and it actually is so positive. The experience of the consumer too is just a way of finding what things to move around to actually mitigate that inflation in a very smart way, minimizing the impact that it will have on your brand by increasing just across the board, because that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
And
it's a blanket approach. Yeah, and I think it's directly related to the episode we did on dynamic pricing.
correct.
Almost daily, adjusting your pricing across platforms, in store, through digital menus, through your app, and staying on top of those fluctuations in inflation and cost of goods can ultimately be a real competitive advantage over the guy down the road.
Exactly, where it's like, oh, you know what, these guys increased but these guys didn't, because you don't go and say, oh my god, they increased the pop, I'm not going there, right? It's like you're going for the
What do you
beef.
mean? What do you mean a can of Coke is 10 cents more? I get that's
E-
that's it. It broke the bank, right?
exactly,
But
exactly.
$10,
But
on top of a combo dinner could drive away foot traffic.
exactly.
So this next clip we're going to play from Jay was his opinion on the difference between QSR and fine dining and what advantages were involved. I'll let Jay take it away.
In your opinion, what tactics have worked best for quick service as opposed to fine dining?
Great question. For some reason, I want to say that QSRs have the ability to adjust and change at a speed that maybe a point where they're also leading the trend or also creating the trend. You think about it, right? So they may come up with something bizarre in a way, or an item or an app, you name it, right? That they have the ability, I think I think they can scale it faster, apply the strategy, idea, menu item in a faster way than possibly a sit down operation.
So Jose, in your opinion, what does he mean by that?
Right away, it takes me to the beginning of Google Ads and the basically this is outdating my marketing
The
experience.
early days of Google,
Yeah, the
of
early days
AdWords?
of
Yeah.
Google Ads, of Google AdWords, when AdWords and all of that was coming out, and the part of the excitement, and it's how it was modeled around, was direct response marketing, which was, you had a series of magazines that you would publish your ad, and you would add a promo code that they would have to ring in when they called in, as an extension number, or mention the promo code, right? So someone on the phone would be like, hey, yeah, this is us, and what's your promo code? Oh, okay. And then you would be recording how many calls from that magazine because of the promo code, and then you would be tabulating all this information in time. And of course, there is a print run, there is copy designs that had to be confirmed and redone, and anyway, just to have one ad and to run it, and the timing of the run, the print, like all this craziness disappeared, and you can do it within minutes. Like literally, if you put enough money, you drive enough traffic that you're gonna get the data, and you don't have to wait 6 months to see how it performed.
Mm-hmm.
So within 24 hours, you could get the results that you want, right? So it's so in the same way. First of all, I mean, and this is gonna sound cheesy, but power is knowledge. Now, the knowledge is power.
Knowledge is
So
power.
knowledge is power. And the idea is that, if you see, when we're talking about the inflation piece and stuff, it's also data, it's understanding, it's knowledge, is massaging the numbers in a way that it's smart and that it maximizes the experience for clients. And then, talking about experiences, a dining sit down, it's also the full experience of even the waiters, the space, it
The
is a slow.
ambiance, the culture, the
So,
service.
in comparison to QSR, you're basically running more people, which basically means that you get data faster understanding, and it's more about the quantity, right? So what happens is that it's very similar, is that because you get that flow much faster, you're able to tweak things and adapt and test and see the results. And so as long as, and this is the advantage, the big advantage of online, pardon me, and QR codes and some of the technology that allows for capturing this data, is that you're able to see really quick some results of an experiment and pivot. And by that I mean that, and it always brings to mind this merchant that I always loved, because she has a donut
shop.
a donut shop. And when she felt comfortable with the system and dynamic pricing and how easy she could actually add stuff, she started running campaigns. She was very, very active in social and had created a really powerful following. But then my favorite things were that then she started doing like weekly dishes that were just specifically for that week, and it was announced, and it was like, and here it is, this is the special of the week, and it's unique, never done, new recipe, send it away, announce it, publish it, and people were waiting for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything that was a success, she actually kept in the menu.
Mm-hmm.
Long.
She's
And
A/B testing.
And stuff. It's just amazing.
A/B testing with food and menus.
Correct.
So do you think that fine dining is missing the boat because they're not as quick to move and test and iterate? No,
I think that it's just a matter of being organized and be able to do it. But for that food, you still can bring a new recipe and announce it and have it available, particular, and the consumer will learn, right? And then you can still offer the beautiful experience, but have it, collect information, get feedback, run it like that as part of the culture of this amazing experience. But we also want you to try this new thing and tell us how it was. And I'd go there every week.
It's cliche to say, but the possibilities are endless. Right? I think we say that so many times just because there's so many different types of cuisines, restaurant models, different types of technology, so many different combinations of how you can go about increasing your sales, mitigating costs, getting new customers, building up loyalty, and limiting churn. I mean, it's a really fun and exciting space, especially right now.
Very exciting. And there's tools and ways of capturing this feedback and the actual behavior of the consumer, and then be able to see it and take actions upon.
Absolutely. That's a great segue into sort of approach to learning new technology that I'll also share in the comments of this episode, but I'll quickly run through it in bullet point form. Jose, while I have you here, all right? Learning new technology systems and processes can be overwhelming for even the most tech-savvy operators. So I put together a 6-step guide to help them learn and master new tech at your business. Number 1, allocate adequate time for discovery. Set enough time aside to research the primary usage and benefits of this particular new tech. Number 2, identify all prerequisites. Do you need a new tablet? Do you need a printer? Strong internet connection? Figure those things out. Number 3, find the right resources. Is there a user guide or online video, for example, to help you review? Number 4, don't hesitate to ask for help. Is there an expert close by you can ask? Does head office provide tutorials? Or is there support in and around your community? Number 5, put your knowledge to the test. Test, test, test. Set up scenarios where you are able to run through the processes before implementing the real deal. Number 6, share your learning with others. You know the saying, the best way to learn is to teach. Show a fellow employee how the technology works. You'll be surprised how quickly you absorb the steps. I'd like to thank Jose once again for his insight Until next week, my name is Gordon, and this is the Restaurant Growth Show podcast, and we are out.